here, but I want to introduce you to our guest speaker today, presenter. He's and just to let you know, we're moving rather quickly because his life right now is really very fluid, and he's got another webinar he has to do directly after he gets done with us. So we have a limited amount of time to work with Max. So Max Mueller has been really busy for the past 50 years. He's an attorney, businessman, OSHA authorized outreach trainer, internationally known speaker and trainer, a business consultant, and the author of 9 books, including The Manager's Guide to HR, Hiring, Firing, Performance Evaluations, Documentation, Benefits, and everything else you need to know, and it's in its 2nd edition. For more than 40 years, Max has consulted for large and small organizations in the private sector and the public sector, the military, and nonprofits. So, Max, thank you so much for giving of your time today. I very much appreciate it. And since I know that we have a limited amount of time, and before I get right into Max here, if you have questions as he's speaking, go ahead and pop them into the chat. And as soon as we can get to those questions, I'd be happy to do that. But Max, in the meantime, first, thank you. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
So let's jump right into it. What is it that the CARE Act is going to do to help entrepreneurs, self-employed, and independent contractors?
All right. Excuse me. There's 2 things. Let's start with unemployment, and let me bifurcate that into 2 parts as well. People who would have been eligible for unemployment insurance because they were employees somewhere, and those of us who are in fact self-employed. In terms of, excuse me, in terms of those who, it's catching there, Ron. In terms of those who already were eligible, for unemployment, it's pretty unremarkable if for a COVID-related reason they are laid off, furloughed, and so forth. They get the normal benefit they would have gotten under unemployment plus an additional $600. Let's see, a week or a month. Let me see here. Let's see. Yeah, it's $600 on top of whatever they would have received in any event. That is going to almost certainly push some people above whatever pay level they were at, even when they were working, full time. And I'm not going to wander down that path. The Senate and the House had various reasons that they agreed to do that, even though it's fairly obvious that that's almost going to guarantee that some people will simply malinger. They want to stay home. They're going to get paid for up to 39 weeks for sitting on their butt, and they're going to get as much or more as they would have gotten in any event. So I guess kind of the underlying idea there is, listen, people are pretty desperate right now. They need to stock up for whatever's coming, and this is going to be a short-lived thing, and that's that. So now let's turn our attention to us, the people who are independent contractors. They've opened it up to us. There's very, pieces and parts to it, but it's my understanding, basically you apply for unemployment just as you would if you, work for someone else. You just go through the same process, and a lot of the same benefits are basically available. A lot of this is going to be self-certification. They're going to go on sort of you're acting in good faith basis, so whatever you put down on the application is pretty much going to be accepted on its face. Yes, I know that's going to open up a lot of, room for fraud and what have you, but otherwise, in the normal course, if someone applies for unemployment on their own, there's an investigation, on and on and on. In addition to that, and this is dependent on state law, there's generally a 1-week waiting period where someone does not get paid. Under this new program, even the first week, people will get money. The sooner you apply, obviously, the sooner you're going to start getting some sort of a benefit. They're pretty shy on details on this, but in the normal course, the way that unemployment works is that during any week where you are receiving compensation of one type or another, it decreases dollar for dollar, whatever it is that you'd have gotten from unemployment. And I'm assuming, and that's all I can do is assume without further guidance from various state agencies, that will be the case here. In terms of other sources of income, I'm guessing it's income from all sources. For example, I get Social Security, so I'm assuming that if I applied, they'd say, "Great, Max, we're going to reduce it dollar for dollar for any dollar you get from Social Security." The thing is, there, I don't know over what time horizon, since Social Security is basically paid on a monthly basis. I don't know if they would take some pro rata share off or whatever. But again, I don't have any details. I'm assuming that is what they're going to do. A lot of you like me. When you get money, it's periodic. You do a deal, you perform a service, whatever, and then within some period of time, you get a check. So I am guessing that would be the week that you actually get it, you actually realize the money in your hand. That is when you actually have it. In other words, I don't think that an accounts receivable is going to work against any of us. But in essence, I think the day that you put the money in the bank or cash the check, as the case might be, that's when you'd have to report that you had some earnings. So that is really my understanding on the unemployment side of it. For those of you who do have employees, you're going to be eligible, or you are eligible for SBA loans because you're under the threshold as far as who this covers. If you had more than 500 workers, then you wouldn't be covered, but you are under this law. And these loans are up to $10 million, and good luck proving to them you need $10 million if you work for yourself and you have one employee. But anyway, these are basically SBA loans. You go to a bank that participates in the SBA program, which obviously is many banks, and they do the application on your behalf, and they just throw you into the hopper with everyone else. Once again, a lot of what you put down is going to be taken sort of at face value without a lot of the normal background checking. The thing is, I forgot, it's a date in June, but you have to apply for this by I don't have the exact date in front of me. June. I think it's June 30th. I think you have to apply for that kind of a loan. How quickly they're going to process them, I don't know. Now, what's really interesting about this, these loans are for payroll, but also to pay mortgages, to pay for utilities, and other things, of that nature. And at least the portion of it that you're using to offset, payroll and so forth, that loan will be forgiven. If your head count doesn't go down, or you restore the head count to what it was after the pandemic thing is over, the loan is forgiven. In other words, the federal government ends up paying it off. So as far as how you do apply for it, again, it's my understanding you just go down to your bank and you go for it. Now, I did a webinar this morning, and I was asked what I thought was kind of an interesting question. The questioner said, "Max, would it be worth it to hire a consultant to fill out the SBA paperwork for us?" And I guess that'd be fine if you're willing to spend the money to have somebody do the paperwork, but I'm not so sure what that gets you. It might get you into the hopper sooner, but we all know how government authorities are. They're going to just throw you on at the bottom of the heap, basically, or place you on the bottom of the heap, and you'll have to work your way to the top for someone to even look at it. Obviously, common sense dictates that the sooner you make application, the sooner you're going to get a loan and all of that. But by the same token, I don't see much efficacy in basically filling out paperwork you could fill out yourself, or that your banker would help you fill out for free. I'm just not sure it's going to speed the process up that much. But as I said, I found that kind of I don't know. It was an interesting question. It was an interesting question.
Well, right now, it's not a time for people to be spending extra money if they don't need to be spending it. So,
right, exactly. Well, listen, that is sort of the fundamentals as I understand them, and I limited, what I just said to our situation as far as being independent contractors who heretofore might not have been eligible for the unemployment benefits, and now because work has dried up for a lot of us, not presumably we are eligible at this time.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to questions. If you have a question, go ahead. Please, if nothing else, just say I have a question, put it in the chat, and I will get to you in the order in which you post those questions. Michael, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and, Michael Linster, go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your question, please, so to make sure that I ask it correctly.
Thanks, Ron, and thanks, Max. A question, you said, start off there, you said unemployment compensation would be what you would traditionally make plus $600. For the self-employed, do you know how they'll calculate what the traditional pay is?
I do not, and I haven't seen any guidances, on that. The federal government, put it into motion. They said we'll fund it, but they're leaving it up to the states to actually do the administration of it. And so, as I say, I think that if you applied to Kansas, Missouri, wherever you happen to live, that whatever is applicable normally, just how they would calculate someone's regular rate of pay. I think that's how it would be figured out. And again, I wish I could give you some guidance. Is it averaged over some period of time? Is it as it's received? Honestly, it's sitting here right now. I just don't know.
Would it be possible that you may be required to show like last year's W-2 or something that would demonstrate what you made in the previous year?
Well, for most of us, it wouldn't be a W-2; it'd be a 1099, and there could be any number of those. Maybe they'd ask for a tax return or Schedule C or something like that. And presumably, I mean that would be sufficient evidence. And then once again, presumably, you could spread that out. And again, this is going to be subject to state law, but just from kind of a common sense standpoint,
right?
There's 2,080 working hours in a year under the Fair Labor Standards Act. 52 weeks, 40 hours a week. So the American Labor Standard is 2,080 hours. So if you took last year's income and divided it by 2,080, then presumably that would give you some hourly rate that then you could apply on a 40-hour-a-week basis over a 2-week pay period, set a time or do it by the week. So I'm guessing there are ways to kind of figure out what you would represent to them. And I haven't decided. First of all, I don't think that because I'm getting Social Security, I don't think that I'd be eligible to get any of this anyway. But just out of curiosity, just to see what the process is like, I might put myself into the process to find out the answer to Michael's question, which I really don't know the answer to now. But if they're saying to us, if when you apply, they say, you tell us what you make, again, my best guess would be take what you made last year, divide it by 2,080. That's going to give you an hourly rate, and then apply it on a 40-hour work week basis. And I don't know what else you could do. By the way, unemployment doesn't pay 100% of someone's wages. It's a percentage of it under all these different state laws, and it's different percentages, but it is based on your regular rate of pay. And then again, they'll throw the extra $600 on top of that.
One of our viewers, Ben Stowe, put into the chat, he said, I believe it is the last 3 years tax returns. The form depends on the type of organization for your business, sole proprietor, LLC, S Corp, etc. The PPP is based on 2018 or 2019 taxes, depending on if 2019 has been filed. So that may help with clarification on that.
Thank you.
Sue, do you have access to a mic? Because if you do, I'm going to go ahead and let you ask your question. If not, I'm happy to do it for you if I don't hear from you momentarily. Okay, I'll go ahead and do it for her then. Sue asked the question, I've been told you can get up to $10,000 as a grant. The application takes less than 5 minutes. Are you familiar with anything having to do with a grant?
That's the SBA.
Pardon me?
What now?
The SBA, the SBA relief. Small business.
I know they have a program. I don't know anything about it. I do know they have some sort of a grant program, but I'm just going to flat tell you I'm unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, you were just saying something about something that is not going to have a repayment, and that's what I think this might be.
Oh, okay. Then it is. If that's what it is, it's what I was talking about. That in essence, excuse me, you get a loan, you front the money. You pay your people and you pay your mortgage and so on and so forth. And then once again, as long as your head count stays where it's at now, as far as your employees, as long as the head count stays the same or is brought back up to the levels set out in the law, then just for the ease of conversation, let's say you restore it back to whatever it was, prior to all of this, then they're going to forgive the loan. By the way, even if you don't restore the head count, they're going to pay off parts of it, forgive parts of it, and then the rest of it you'd have to pay off. But again, theoretically, yes, it's a loan that is forgiven. If that's what you're talking about, then yes, that is the case.
And maybe you touched on it, Max, and I missed it because I was busy choking on a peanut. I'm not sick. Just want everybody to know. Small businesses and sole proprietors can begin applying on April 3rd. That would be tomorrow. Independent contractors and self-employed individuals can apply beginning on April 10th. And I'm also seeing that, according to this, while the program is open until June 30th, 2020, the government is advising borrowers, and that's a hard word to say, borrowers, to apply as soon as possible, given the loan, in other words, don't remember which was the next page. But anyway, the point is that if you want the money, you best go for it now, because there's no guarantee, since there's a cap on the amount of money that they have. It's going to be first come, first serve, essentially, is what I think this article is talking about. I'm not seeing any other. Wait a minute. From Tara. Small business loans, coronavirus emergency loans, small business guidance checklist from the U.S. Okay, basically,
it's not a question.
Yeah, she's sharing the form that this is actually. I was telling Max about this earlier this afternoon. This thing from the United States Chamber of Commerce is actually pretty comprehensive. It's one of the few explanations of this stuff that I've been able to be able to understand, because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But that's also why I invited Max here, is because I wanted him to explain this in terms that hopefully everybody can understand. Do we have any other questions, though, for Max before we move on here? I'm not seeing any other comments. Anybody have? How about a comment? If you have a comment, open your mic real quick.
Hi, it's Susan. I just wanted to tell you that two of those questions one of them is about a business with not more than 500 employees. And then some of the people in my area, because they were talking about this on the radio today, you can be a sole proprietor without employees, and gig economies, and people who have like 2 and 3 employees. So I don't want anyone to not apply because you don't have employees. Just do it. Just try it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
From what I'm understanding today, depending on sole proprietor and minimum amount of employees, it might be more beneficial to apply for unemployment rather than an SBA, thinking that you're going to get it and it's going to be all forgiven, because it's not. You really should, before you do anything, check into your options, because again, I had a very in-depth webinar today with a financial guy. And he said, you really need to weigh your options, because it might be better to file for unemployment rather than take an SBA, because it's not going to be automatically forgiven. It's only parts of.
Right, and I totally agree with that. And by the way, I also agree with the comment. Go for it. I mean, not necessarily the loan, but the unemployment for sure. I would do that. I really would.
It's Sarah. Sarah, it's Alan Berg. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Alan.
New Jersey Economic Development Corp had a webinar, and I listened to the recording yesterday. And home-based businesses were not eligible. So that was another thing. A lot of us who do have a home office, you need to get those grants. You needed to have a commercial space.
Yeah.
So a lot of the other things were the same as what we're hearing. And then it goes by income and other stuff like that. So, I was looking at it on many different levels. I wouldn't qualify for a grant. I could qualify for loans, and some of those could have been zero interest, low interest, whatever loans, but no grant money. for that, but it is something to look at. Certainly, if somebody does, have an office outside or at least the address outside their home.
Right.
Alan, Alan, if I may, I don't mean to interrupt. Did they use the word home-based business as a generic? Because it would seem to me that if you are claiming some part of your residence that you've actually set up as an office, that's all it's used for.
Yeah.
That would why would that not be the equivalent of renting something?
Again, they had specific things. These were New Jersey grants. These were not the federal.
Okay.
And one of the things that disqualified was you could have a home office and still be considered a real business. That wasn't the issue. The issue was, again, they were what they're looking to do is they're looking to keep people employed. We know that's what they're trying to do. So if you're working out of your home and you're a sole proprietor, it's just you. That's not who they're trying to target. They're trying to target these restaurants and people that are closed to keep their people employed, and that's not us. Well, at least, again, not me. So New Jersey actually had a really good qualification thing that you went online, and it was just a yes, no, this is me, whatever. And when you got down to the end, it said these are the things you do and don't qualify for. So with me, it was anything that was any kind of a grant or anything that would be forgiven. That was all crossed off. Sorry, no. But I could apply for loans and low interest loans and things like that. So but it was really easy. Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Alan.
It was also first come first serve. They said it was tomorrow. They're opening this process up, and there's a certain amount of money. When it's gone, it's gone.
Wow.
Thank you.
So, Alan, I don't know if this is true, but I heard in New Jersey, one of the lines on there, you could actually do a checkbox, and the checkbox was, "I know a guy."
Yeah. Well, it was, and you do know a guy because you got me. And the thing is, if you don't got a guy, then you know a guy who's got a guy. So if you need a guy. I grew up in New York, so I had to change my accent when I moved over here, right, Tara?
Yeah.
So
Get me upset and you'll hear the New York accent.
Yeah.
I made a promise to Max because I know he's got to get to another webinar. Anybody have one final question for Max? Anything left for Max? And then we can discuss this after he's offline. But again, if not, I'm not seeing anybody pop up in the chat, so I'm going to assume no. Max, thank you so much for giving of your time and squeezing this in. I know how terrible inconvenience, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you today.
I'm honored to be with you all. Good luck to everybody. Be well, be safe. And so.
I told Max that I would mow his yard if he would come on with us today, even though he had something else to do. But I'm going to tell you right now, Peter Mary will be mowing for you. So,
Ron must know where I live. I live in a townhouse. I have no yard.
Oh, see?
All right, Peter's happy.
He knew that.
You're welcome, Peter. You're welcome. Max, thank you again.
You're well,
See you on the other side, my friend. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Clapping for you, Max. Woohoo!
Yeah. Landscaping businesses are actually exempt. They can keep operating. My son lives in Pennsylvania, and I'll call it his father-in-law, has a landscaping business, a tree business, and they were able to operate. The furniture company he was working for had to close down, but he texted me this morning. He got another job. The furniture company's owner's wife has a landscaping business, and she's giving him a job. So he's ending up with a job that he can do, and it's outside and not by other people. So it's good. Just him and John Deere.
I think it was Tara that shared it. The link to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Again, if you've not looked at this, the link is already in the event page. I posted it a couple hours ago because again, when I saw this, it was like, wow, this is something I can actually kind of wrap my head around. What I'd love for you all to do is if you go out there and you try to do these things, if you're out there filling out forms for grants and talking to banks and all that, come back to the event page for today and share your experiences. Maybe give some tips on things that kind of like showing up to get your driver's license at the DMV. I always show up and I forgot the title, or I forgot to bring my inspection with me. So if you run into experiences of things that you wish you had brought with you or didn't know you had to bring, share those experiences in the comments. What else would anybody like to talk about in regards to the CARE Act. And any other questions or comments or things they'd like to share? Has anybody actually had any experience with this at all? Yes, no, maybe?
I just wanted to ask about confirmation.
About what?
I just wanted to ask some kind of confirmation. I'm a single op. I do not have any employees. My wife has a very well-paying job. I've just lost all of the income that I would normally have for the year. What options do I have? I've got
Unemployment.
Unemployment.
Okay.
Unemployment.
See, that was what I was wondering. I was just wondering. I'm a business owner, and so I'm unemploying myself. I was just wondering how that worked.
How does that work?
Go ahead and I sat in on a financial webinar today, and the financial planner / accountant talked about, even if you have a spouse who's still currently employed and still collecting money, like you're solo op, single, self-employed, you're qualified. Go ahead and file.
That's interesting.
All right, that's what I needed to have clarified.
Actually, my
and
wife.
they're saying to apply. I read this someplace. Well, at least in the state of Kansas and in Missouri, both are saying, don't try to call. Do as much as you can online, because they're just getting bombarded with phone calls at this point. So I'm really dying to see how this all plays out. So that's why I said please share your experiences. So and kind of like going back to what Alan was talking about, as I'm thinking about high office at home too, and when we file our taxes, we indicate that a certain part of our house is nothing but business.
Right.
So I'm curious to see in Missouri, where I live, if indeed they classify that as office space or whether they classify it as home. So,
I mean, it's still, if you're a business and you file as a business and you have, you're, like in my case, an LLC, which is, this is my address for my LLC, and we do take a deduction for part of this. It's a real business, but for those grants, that's not the businesses they're targeting for it. Again, the assistance would be low interest loans. But I'm curious about the unemployment, because I took my wife off of payroll because I had to have her on payroll to be my so we could get health insurance.
right.
But New Jersey has given a little pass right now that you don't have to have. It's okay if I furloughed my only employee, which I did, I can still have our health insurance. But I was told that she couldn't file for unemployment because she's a partner in the business.
I see.
But again, now what you're saying there is, as a solopreneur, apply for unemployment. Well, we're a partnership. Can
Right.
then we both apply for unemployment as the partners? I mean,
Could
I've
I
never
ask
heard
you
of
a
that.
question, Alan?
yeah.
Now, you just mentioned that you had furloughed your wife. I've noticed, my wife works a full-time job, but she works at a part-time job at the local mall here, JCPenney.
Mhm.
I've noticed that JCPenney and Macy's have said they furloughed their employees rather than they've laid them off.
Right.
Is there a significant difference in the terminology?
My payroll company doesn't know any difference. I just removed her from payroll.
Okay.
The difference in the terminology to me is furlough means I intend to hire her back, as
Okay.
opposed to fired means I have no intention to hire her back.
And some of the businesses that are furloughing are also extending the health benefits. So they
Right, which
still- they
is
can
what
still
I'm
take
doing.
advantage of it, yeah.
I'm still paying her health insurance.
Okay.
Because we, even though we're married, we have 2 single person health insurance plans,
Mhm.
which cost the same as the 2 of us anyway. But it was this crazy thing in New Jersey. We could not get good health insurance unless I had a W-2 employee, join the New Jersey the Employers Association of New Jersey for $700 a year, and became part of their group. But you
Okay.
needed to have one W-2 employee, but they allowed it to be a spouse, whereas most of the plans would not allow your W-2 employee to be a spouse. This Employers Association of New Jersey allows that. But what they just made all the insurance companies in New Jersey just said, because of what's going on, you no longer have to have that W-2 employee, at least temporarily, to keep the health insurance.
Okay.
Because that was my thing, is otherwise I have to keep her on payroll. And the only reason she's on payroll is to get the insurance, which means we're paying payroll taxes, which I don't want to pay those now.
I get it.
I still have to give her money because we still have to live, because that's what I do, is that her payroll then is the household expenses. But so I call it furlough because she will be hired back when they say we need to have a W-2 employee again.
So would she be eligible for unemployment then?
My accountant said no because she's a partner.
Okay.
Ooh.
Ouch.
She gets
Yeah.
a K-1 in addition
Yeah.
to a W-2.
Well, just the
Right.
health insurance, so it's going to be worth whatever she's getting in whatever she would get in unemployment. I mean,
Right.
the trade-off is probably the health insurance is probably more valuable than, well, I don't know.
Right. And the question was, is it because she's a partner or because she's a spouse? And it could actually be both of them that would disqualify her because I'm paying my wife,
I see.
so even if she's not a partner, it's still paying my wife. So,
Okay.
I-
Any other comments on the CARE Act before we move on? Anybody else have anything they want to say about that? Awesome. Well, this has been a great discussion, and I'm dying to hear what happens on the other side of this as you all go out there. And again, please report back to the chat board. That'd be great, and that way everybody's kind of got a grip on what's going on.